And now our fourth story out front. The bunker buster is ready. And we're going to show it to you right now. This is what it can do. This is the biggest weapon in the American military's arsenal. It's known as a massive ordnance penetrator, or a MOP for short. And when Air Force Secretary Michael Donnelly was asked this week whether the bomb is ready, he said, quote, "If it needed to go today, we'd be ready to do that." Now, there are 20 of these bombs that have been made. Boeing is the maker. And just to give you a sense of the size, each of the bombs is more than 20 feet long. Each of the bombs weighs about 30,000 pounds. And one of the weapon's primary missions is to pulverize bunkers that could be up to 200 feet below the Earth's surface. And it so happens that there is a particular country the U.S. is worried about that has just such facilities. That's Iran. And there is a problem. Those bunker busters may not even be powerful enough to destroy whatever may be deep underneath the surface in Iran. So they actually have an upgrade already in the works. Now, this is important to note that this comes as the Washington Post reports that Iran is building up its military arsenal with missiles that could potentially hit American ships stationed in the Persian Gulf. Out front tonight, our Pentagon correspondent Barbara Starr and retired Air Force Colonel Cedric Leighton. And Colonel Leighton, let me start with you. We've talked about these huge bombs before. How significant are these bombs? And do you think that there should be concern that they may not even be, despite their enormous size, big enough to deal with some of the potential issues out there?
Well, they are huge, as you mentioned, Aaron, and the big thing here is that the Iranians have developed several techniques for hardening concrete. And the fact that the concrete has been hardened through special techniques means that any type of conventional weapon is going to have a really tough time getting after that hardened target, as they call them. In this case, the technical term is hardened and deeply buried targets. And the Iranians are masters not only at hardening the concrete, and they actually study that in their universities, but the other part of it is that they have buried their bunkers where they're creating a lot of their nuclear weapons in deeply underground, places like Parchin, Fordo, and all of those. Many of the installations that we're interested in are very much underground.
So it's interesting to see whether, when you talk about an upgrade, do you have any sense of what that upgrade might be in that weapon? 30,000 pound becomes what?
Well, the weight probably stays the same in most cases, but what happens is that the targeting is improved and the type of ordnance that is attached to the bomb, the explosive charge that is related to the bomb, actually becomes a more powerful charge. And so it's a matter of creating a more powerful charge to do the job that we think it needs to do.
Barbara, let me ask you, obviously all this reporting about what Iran is doing, the U.S. having these massive ordnance penetrators. What else has the United States been doing to build up in the Persian Gulf, and has there been a marked buildup?
Well, there has been, Aaron. You know, the thinking is that if Israel or the U.S. were to attack Iran's nuclear program, Iran retaliates by shutting down the oil lanes in the Strait of Hormuz. Economic disaster. So the U.S. Navy now has 2 aircraft carrier battle groups there. And when you talk about whether the Iranians could challenge those battle groups, sure. You know, they could punch through some defenses, but let's look at the defenses. 2 aircraft carrier battle groups. Aircraft carriers these days are equipped with all of these things you see here: anti-aircraft, anti-missile systems, radar-guided guns, systems that can attack anti-ship cruise missiles that the Iranians could launch at them. And besides the aircraft carriers, which, by the way, have about 100 or more combat aircraft amongst them, there are cruisers and destroyers equipped with advanced radars that can see 360 degrees, submarines, patrol aircraft. Perhaps most importantly, though, minesweepers, because the theory is that the Iranians could have a temporary advantage. They put a mine in the water, a ship, a cargo ship, an oil tanker hits it. That's going to send insurance rates sky high and really provoke a crisis in the oil markets until the Navy can get those waters cleared.
And Colonel Leighton, let me ask you, as Barbara goes through the U.S. defenses, it does sound sort of impregnable in many ways. Could Iran really mount a challenge against those sorts of everything that she lists out that those ships carry?
Well, any type of surface combatant, as the Navy ships are called, is vulnerable to some degree. Now, of course, these are massive ships, and as Barbara was enumerating all the different parts of the Navy fleet that's in the Persian Gulf, those are very, very hard targets for the Iranians to get at. But what they'll try to do is they'll try to go at them asymmetrically, which means that they'll use various devices, various methods, various techniques to go after these ships in a way that is hard to detect. They will try to do it. They will try to swarm harm these ships through smaller vessels that they have, very small vessels that they can use, and they can create a lot of havoc. They can create USS Cole-type incidents, and that's what we want to avoid.
And Colonel Leighton, just one final quick question. I'm just purely curious from a technical perspective. Where do we test those 30,000-pound mops? I mean, how do we know that they work? Where do they test them?
Well, they're tested at several locations, but generally they'll be tested out west in facilities in states like New Mexico and Nevada.
Yeah.
And they will be used in very, very precise areas where they can actually measure their effectiveness against concrete and other things that they're interested in.
All right, well, interesting to learn that the defenses we have from Barbara, but also that they study concrete hardening in Iranian universities. Well, there's a new